This is Inspiring Design, where unique innovators come together to share their knowledge, share their insight, and keep us up to date with the latest industry trends. And here's your host, Jessie and I.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode with Inspiring Design with me, Jessie and I. Today we have a very special guest, Jessie Hughes. She's an internationally recognized Australian new media artist and VR filmmaker. And let me tell you a quick background on herself. She's created some innovative media works for massive global brands and tech giants, including Oculus, Adobe, and her VR experiences have been exhibited in Sundance and Cannes film festivals around the world. She's constantly traveling the world, being involved with some major clients such as Facebook California, the International Rescue Committee, and heaps of local clients, even in Australia, like the State Library of Queensland. All this, and she's only 24. And to be honest with you all, it was quite difficult for me to get Jessie in front of the microphone simply because of her ridiculously busy schedule. So we're very lucky to have her here. And welcome, Jessie. Thanks for chatting with us today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And can you start off with giving a quick background of yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a hard question to answer. Typically, I would say that I'm a creative technologist. So my professional background is in interactive design, interaction design, visual design. And in the past few years, it's really become a field of experimenting with how we can be using new media, digital media, and just emerging technologies in a creative application, whether that's through art, whether it's through film, but typically most of my work is with a social impact. So I'm driven by how can we use technology to create large scale, real social impact.
Yeah. That's insane. And I noticed that a new media artist, so I'm assuming VR and all these new technologies is part of all that. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So new media art, it's a big broad one. So I started off like a bit of programming back in uni, and it was really exciting to see that what's possible from a creative perspective of how you can be using technology, and then twisting it on its head and opening up this whole world of endless possibilities, whether that's like body tracking and having that then impact another element, or you're able to use variables in the world. I did a lot of data visualization for a solar observatory a few years back.
Wow.
And it was beautiful being able to take hard data, which is a spreadsheet of numbers, and turn it into an artwork which people can connect with on an emotional level. So it's an exciting time to have access to all this technology and seeing what can we do with it, how can we push it, what other applications can we have.
That's great. And I'm assuming your job title, like that new media artist or VR filmmaker, probably didn't exist 5-10 years ago.
No. So I remember being in high school and I thought I wanted to be a digital publisher because that's what my career lady said. She was like, you probably want to be a graphic designer. And so I ended up going into my design degree, and I had one look and I was like, I am not a graphic designer. But I was so happy to be exposed to this whole world of design can be so much more, and it is so much more. And I finally found where I stand in the design space, and for me that's as professionally as a design strategist. So how can we look at a social issue, understand why that social issue is happening, and then come up with design solutions that are truly going to solve that and hopefully make the world a better place.
Wow, I'm seriously impressed with what you've achieved with your age. But can you give us a quick background on what you did with Oculus?
Yeah, absolutely. So back in 2016, Oculus launched an incredible program. It's called VR for Good. And so what they did, they paired 10 not-for-profits with 10 filmmakers to see how we could use virtual reality as a tool to create social impact or social change. And I was incredibly fortunate to be among the first cohort of VR for Good filmmakers. And at that time, I was 22 years old.
Wow.
And they flew me to Facebook headquarters, and Zuckerberg was like on the story above us. And it was one of the most just awe-inspiring days of my life.
Yeah.
And we were being trained by the leaders in VR. We had we had like Gabba, who works for the United Nations VR program. We had giant heads at Facebook and Oculus teaching us about this incredible technology that was. 2016 was a fun time because it was starting to become like a commercial. Yeah, it was like a commercial thing that people could have and people could access. And so the whole project saw me end up going to Guatemala, and we made a beautiful film about solar energy poverty that's happening, and the not-for-profit that I work for distributes solar lights. And so just working out in the field, literally 4 hours away from any nearest town, we had to hire a generator to run our camera, to run our computer. It was an incredible experience, and
wow.
The success that came from VR for Good has just been growing and growing. In the next years, they ended up expanding the Creator Lab. Now you've got their competitors like HTC. They run VR for Impact. It's just been really exciting to see all these massive technology companies, these giants, being like, we want to use our technology for good. Let's see what we can do. And they're going for it. So
wow. I'm seriously impressed by the amount of knowledge that you just have given in this first 5 minutes even. So let's jump into this. One of the biggest questions that I always get with from teachers, schools, universities, or even in the industry, there's a lot of clarification that's required around all these new technology, especially with VR, AR, MR, XD, all these different mainstream terms that, popular terms that are happening, especially more and more. Can you give us a little bit of, can you clarify those terms for us? Like what's VR?
I will try to. So, it's been funny to watch the evolution and these definitions kind of change and evolve. I think they are still changing and evolving. Right now, my interpretation of it goes like this. So you have XR, which means extended reality, and that's kind of...
XR, not XD.
They're very confusing. There's so many. There's many. So extended reality is the branch term, and so that includes, say, virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, and I'm sure it's just continuing to grow.
Yep.
So VR is the space that I typically am involved in, and that... It's about immersing people in these virtual worlds. So immersing someone entirely in an environment. We do it through a VR headset. So you put on the headset and you are within a world that, you otherwise wouldn't be, which is just, it's incredible, the possibilities that, are... the possibilities are really endless with it as a technology. Then you've got augmented reality. So if you've got kids in your class who have got their Snapchat filters up, that is what AR is. So it's about using the real world and then overlaying information on top of that. So augmenting that space. AR is really taking off at the moment. Phones are building it into just coming with the phones now, and you've got all of these apps that have just introduced AR integration. So I think it's definitely a really exciting space. I'm sure you as teachers are going to have to start fighting all these students in their Snapchat worlds. But anyway.
I've actually noticed that even Facebook Messenger, Skype, they all have that filter system for that augmented reality.
People enjoy it. People are engaging with it. And I think that's a thing that's, again, exciting with these emerging technologies is it is fun. And if something is fun, people are going to engage. And so it's how you can use that engagement, you can create a positive experience, but then how can we go deeper? Like how can we create impact with that in a positive way and just say influence people to be kinder or go forward or make a certain decision. So
I feel like this is a great tool to help people understand and empathize with someone on the other side of the world, especially in a design context, if they're trying to understand what an end user might be or what a space might feel like before they even break ground.
Entirely. The applications that I have seen of VR, it's from the furthest space in terms of engineering or architecture or that space up until medicine and solving PTSD and all these phenomenal diverse. It's such a diverse people are just taking it all these different ways, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said before about the empathy field, I had done fundraising for quite a few years, and my first VR experience ever, it was in Austin, Texas. They have a shop called Tom's, which means if you buy
shoes.
Yeah, Tom's shoes. So if you buy a pair of Tom's, they will give a pair of shoes to a child in need. And I was in the shop and I put on the headset, and I just remember bawling my eyes out, and I was crying, and I was watching this kid get his first pair of shoes.
Wow.
And it was such an emotional experience. And you take off the headset and remember that you're standing in a shopping center. And you're like, okay, this is embarrassing, but anyway.
Now you have to buy it.
Yeah, exactly. I did buy this stuff.
Yeah.
But for me, what was just so incredible is you lose yourself, and I did believe that I think it was in Peru the film was shot, but I believed like I was in the mountains and I was at this kid's school and I was at this kid's house, and it enables you to have a level of understanding that you would absolutely not be able to have unless somebody took you to their house, took you to their school, and walked you through that. And even in the sense of, a documentary film, it's just different because you can be within it and you can have a solitary moment of reflection. You can look around and really take in this level of information like never before. I think in terms of fundraising or for communicating an issue truly in depth without taking someone there, like this is how we're going to do it.
It's
really
the best
exciting.
way.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've constantly been getting asked by schools and different teachers and design professionals is what headset is best for them, right? And even myself, I went through this thing when we were working with schools, trying to understand what the best headsets are, what are the best brands, the cost comparison, the different specs, what's it good for, what's it not good for. Can you give us an understanding firstly about the main brands and things to actually look out for?
Yeah, for sure. So it's as diverse as buying a car. It's what are you wanting it for? What are your end users? What is the application? What are the games you want to play? How much are you willing to invest? And so just as a very basic overview, I'm talking what's best on the market right now. So This is just at the end of 2018 at the moment. I promise you in the next 6 months, my opinion will be totally different and whatever it's growing. But right now, the most accessible is the Oculus Go headset. So that came out this year, and it has just changed the game because I think it's about $300, which makes it it's a commercial product. It's accessible and you're able to, take it around. It's portable. It doesn't require you to attach it to a computer, which was a barrier to entry for a while because say the higher end devices, so they were the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive, they're great, they're incredible, but you have to have a high functioning computer or gaming engine to be able to run these headsets. And I actually, Oculus, when I worked for Oculus, I was gifted an Oculus Rift, which is awesome and I loved it, but I had to take it to my boyfriend's house to use his gaming computer to even be able to use this headset because it wouldn't work on my Mac. And so
if we break that down, how much is an Oculus Rift?
That's a good question.
Just approximate?
It used to be $1,000, but I think they dramatically reduced it. I swear I saw an email the other day saying that they
$500-600 from memory.
I think they've really dropped it to I think it is about $600 because I think Oculus have gone for the goal of trying to be the commercial kind of they want people to get involved, and that's been I think for a lot of these tech companies how can we get the general population start experimenting with
Yep.
this tech. Like, how can we get them intrigued? The Vive, on the other hand, is awesome. It's really brilliant for interactive experiences. So if you want any sort of like gameplay experience,
So that's HTC.
yeah. So HTC, they made the Vive, and personally, I really enjoy it for interactive experiences. The Rift again is really great for interactive experiences. They just have different different games that are only available on each of them because they are competitive companies, and so it just depends what apps are you interested in. It'd be like deciding between buying an iPhone or buying a Samsung phone, and you want to look at, okay, well, what am I looking for at the end? But yeah, there's a whole heap of other ones. The Samsung Gear 360 headset, that was popular back in 2016 when I was doing the festival rounds.
I believe they were one of the first ones on the market.
Yeah. So what they did cool. It's only been 3 years, but honestly, these are leaps and bounds in the difference of how people are engaging with this tech. So in 2016. They released, so you could use your phone as the screen, and then you would put your phone into the headset, and it was really good. The issue was I always had a broken screen, a cracked screen, so it just never worked for me. But it was really great that they started being like, how can we make this portable? How can we make it accessible?
Yeah.
And for the past 3 years, they have been, I would say, one of the leaders in being a portable, accessible device. And a lot of people invested in that, which was great because that was the leader at the time. Now, the Oculus Go has solved that. It's a third of the price. And it's just more of it's just easier. And I think that's what everyone's trying to go towards is how can my product be as easy as possible, as user-friendly as possible. And the Go has done a really nice job of that. But the Go is more suitable to, say, 360 video experiences or low interaction experiences, whereas if you wanted any sort of variable interaction impact, so say if I wanted to play a shooter game or I wanted to play some sort of interactive game, that would be for either the Rift or the Vive would be more suitable.
Because the computer or the high-spec machine that you have to be connected to, that's going to be an investment of at least a couple of grand, isn't it?
Yeah. like a lot of grand. Yeah. So the university I work for, we were using Alienware laptops, and I'm pretty sure they're about $5,000. And
there you go.
Yeah. So they are pricey. If your school already has them, or if your university already has a high-end engine, you get some high-spec PCs. They're fine. It's just understanding what technology does your school already have. What's possible? What are these specs high enough to run a game, run the Vive or the Rift? And if they are, then awesome. What are we trying to get our kids to experience? What do we want this high level interaction, more like gameplay experience, these apps, or do we want more of a say educational video or just low scale interaction experience, which is significantly cheaper? What is your end goal?
Yeah.
So
I think that's a challenge that a lot of schools are going through, just because one, they have to invest a lot of time into training and understanding this technology. At the same time, investing time to actually buy the right one, considering there's a lot more out there. And like you said, a year's time, it might be completely obsolete because there's a completely better one out there at the moment. So one of the things that we've been encouraging schools with is using their existing PCs or Macs, and whether they're, especially in the design faculties, using SketchUp and Revit and existing CAD software, and then purchasing the Go, because it's again a couple of $100 investment, so they can then have that low level interactivity, and they can view things and immerse their students, and they can look around and design things. I think it's a little bit different, and I think it might not be the best time for schools to invest in a Rift so they can actually design in VR, because I feel like that's a bit more of a long learning curve. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's actually good advice for them?
Yes and no. So I think number one, if you haven't tried VR, go get a Go.
Yeah.
Play around in it. See if this is something that you really want to get involved with. If it is, awesome. Then hell yes, let's go into the riff. Let's go into the vibe. Let's see what's most suitable for you. In terms of the actual applications that you would be getting your students to interact with, they're designed to be easy. They're a game. And so I think it is okay to be investing in, say, a Vive and playing around with it. What's coming to the top of my head is there's, oh my gosh, what's it called? It's on the Vive and you paint in 3D space.
I've never actually
used it. It's a tilt brush. There we go.
Tilt brush.
Okay, so tilt brush is one of my favorite interactive experiences. I'm pretty sure it is only specific for the Vive right now, but they are maybe off this board, I'm not sure. And so you can physically you paint in 3D space. It's like building a sculpture, but it's all around you. So it's like if you picked up a paint. I remember when those 3D printing pencils came out and you could like draw 3D.
Yeah,
technology is exciting. There's so much exciting stuff going on. It was a really cool experience to be able to, say, prototype instantly and to be able to build and interact with something that you've literally just created in front of you, change it, switch it up, turn it upside down, play this, and be able to experience it and walk through that is really cool. And I think it's only going to get easier. I think it's only going to get cheaper. So it's really exciting to see like that now the amount of developers who are keen on exploring this space are just growing, which means better products for us.
Yeah. Something I've observed even recently actually at the conference that we were there with, we had a father-son put on the headset for the first time at the same time. And it was actually really interesting to see that generational gap with this new technology. We were both helping them the same way, but the kid actually stopped. I think he was 11 from memory, and he just stopped wanting instructions from us because he knew what to do. Yeah. And he was actually interacting with his own VR headset and telling his dad what to do. Yeah. And the dad was just confused after a couple of minutes. He took it off because it was too much for him. So this is obviously something that schools have to deal with a lot, because at the end of the day, our teachers are anywhere between that 25 to all the way up to 65 sometimes. So how would they even approach this? Do you think working with students that are going to pick it up in a second or two?
Disclosure, both of my parents are teachers and I still have to teach my mum how to right click in Word. So I understand the struggle. So I think it's something that teachers should support. I mean, technology, like the generation of kids who are coming through, they are technology babies. They can pick even without understanding it, they just pick it up and they'll figure it out. And that's thanks to design, as designers who are building these products. That's how we design it. We're like, we just want somebody to pick it up and figure it out themselves. People don't read instruction manuals anymore.
Yep.
Well, we don't. I don't.
IKEA level, and even that we don't read it.
Yes, the max. And so the way experiences are designed, it is somebody needs to be able to pick up that telephone. They need to be able to pick up their VR headset. They need to pick up a handset and instantly, within 2 minutes of fiddling around, a quick experiment, have figured out how to use it. And say, 10 minutes into it, I'd learned this other little thing. But it's user-friendly, usability design, like that is what we're in. This is the space we're going towards. And so I just want to truly stress, like, there's no need to be scared. My mum is scared of technology and it's not needed. It's not warranted. Kids are embracing it, and because they aren't afraid to press the wrong button or press the wrong thing, it doesn't matter. You go back to the main menu. It's fine. Yeah. And so just having that mindset, and I think just being like genuine and honest with the kids you're teaching. Be like, look, we got this cool tech. Like, who can figure it out first? Yeah. Race me, beat me. Yeah. Because then they're empowered and they're excited that they are the leaders in this technology, because they're going to be, and they are. Like, they're going to be creating even cooler things that we couldn't even conceive. I would say just get the technology and play with it. That's how they're meant to be designed, is just to play, and you'll figure it out along the way. Yeah. You don't need an instruction manual anymore. Just figure it out. Have a play.
I think that's one of the scariest things for teachers, because they're supposed to know everything. Yeah. It's the person teaching us everything. Whereas like something we've been stressing with schools is there's a difference between teaching and facilitation.
Yes.
If you actually facilitate them to use the products themselves, you actually don't need to know everything, or even you might need to know 5-10% ahead of the students, maybe.
Yeah.
But even then, it's not a problem. It's actually, like you said, admitting that they don't know and then race me.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
But I mean, like I work in the field and I'm still learning things. Every time you pick it up, I didn't know I could do that. And plus you get these updates constantly, and you'll pick up your phone or you pick up a device and I'm like,
there's new
it does
features.
this now. Okay, great. And just embracing that and being just really like honest and having an open communication with your students of just being like, okay, so this is where we're at. Let's see what we can do. Because I guarantee you they will come up with the most creative things. I was teaching VR workshops at the State Library, and I think our youngest kids are around 8 years old.
Wow.
And they're doing stuff that I never would have thought of. And you sit there and you're like, it's that creativity, that sense of adventure, that sense of play that creates amazing outcomes. Like we had a kid create a VR experience of what it would be like to be a worm, and it was out on the floor, and like, wow, you get to experience life as a worm.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like recently we were at this school, granted it was a private school, and they're lucky enough to have amazing tech and amazing facilities from year 8 onwards. And after our workshop, he was so excited to share his little project, and this was a year 10 shoot. He's been working on it during lunchtime, so he hasn't been playing outside. He's been doing this project just because how cool it is.
Yeah.
And he had modeled the entire school in Minecraft. And he wanted me to put the headset on, and obviously this is the first time I've been to the school. I didn't recognize the spaces. And he's asking me, going, can you recognize this? Can you go to the courtyard? Do you see what's there? And I'm like, is this your school? He's like, yep, I just built the whole thing. I'm like, wow. And he's like, walk around, you can like change the buildings, or like, shoot people, or like, go move the column if you want, do whatever you want. He's like, I can just reset it later. And this was a year 10 shoot, and he was just and a passion project.
Yeah, it's our kids' new version of Lego. It's Lego bricks.
Exactly.
Except now it's virtual. And that's the only difference is it's still the same thinking, it's still the same experimentation and play and exploring, except instead of, picking up a physical building brick, you can do it in a VR and click instantly. You've got a brand new, environment. You've got this, you've got that. So it's cool because it still has that sense of excitement that I said, like video games that people enjoy because it's fun.
Because you're in the game.
You're in it. You're invested, and you have a level of immersion. Whether that's sitting back and playing with the controller, or whether that's actually being within the environment. And people who really love it just spend. My boyfriend spends 4 hours in a spaceship, and I'm like, what? How are you spending 4 hours in a spaceship? But it's because, it's being able to be in it. Like, when are you going to go on a spaceship?
Yeah.
You have the opportunity to do it. Why not chuck on a headset and go into that land?
That's exactly right. And something that I recently learned, there was this case study in the US where they were using VR technology for mathematics.
Cool, yeah.
And they found that the students it was a voluntary thing, and obviously there was about 20-30 students because it's cool, and they found that the students who interacted with the mathematical formulas in VR, so they're literally drawing the curves or the graphs in virtual reality, they actually picked up and understood the formulas, I think within 2 days. The same students hadn't understood the formulas for a couple of years before then. So that to me was just amazing, because they're so far ahead, being able to pick up things just like that.
It's a way of visualizing and having an experiential learning experience. And so, obviously all students learn differently.
Yeah.
This allows people to have, whether that's experiential, so they have been in that environment and understood it in a way that they could actually engage with. Like trying to understand, say, numbers on a page, like you were talking about, can be really tough because you're looking at these numbers on a page, but there isn't that next level of understanding because there isn't the ability to play with it and hold on to it and test it and push it. chuck on a headset, and like you said, you can be within that equation and interact with it and see how those variables do change and have just a different way of thinking, a different way of experiencing, and then having some positive reaction is really cool. And I think especially for trialing topics, like it is really cool to look at innovative approaches and how, you can look at it in a different light or just pursue something in a different way.
Yeah. I think that statement of be with the equation, I feel like that's where a lot of teachers struggle, because that had no meaning before VR existed. So teachers are, I think, struggling with understanding that, and I feel like there's no way to actually communicate that properly without a teacher putting on a headset and experiencing it themselves. So that's incredible to learn about those things. So one of the things that come with VR is obviously the other side of the coin, with different health risks, I would say, and restrictions and age barriers and things like that. So firstly, I've seen different age recommendations for using different headsets. What are your thoughts on that? What are the recommendations that come from Oculus or your knowledge?
I think, like you said, each company has different numbers. It's mainly because they don't want to get in trouble. And it's because there hasn't been enough time to test the technology to really see if there is the implications that they're talking about. So
because right now we have no idea about the long-term effects.
Yeah, and so they talk about like a general amount of time that you should be within the experience, or for a developing brain, for example, with much younger kids. Because there is the potential fear. It's a fear of the unknown, pretty much, but there's the fear of, will it change how they then perceive reality? And because it when you're fully immersed, it can be quite. When you take your headset off, you need a moment to remember.
Yeah.
Okay, which one was the real one again? It's like the whole Matrix, or it's a thing. Yeah, it is just one of those things that I think over time we'll be having more research around. But you've also got to consider, this is being used as a health tool. People are having amazing success. Say for vertigo, for example, somebody can go stand on a pretend building and get over that fear of heights just through counselling. People who have fears of spiders, they have AR games now that you AR a spider onto your eye. Yeah, it looks horrible. I don't want to do it. And people are being able to process their mental health issues or fears or whatever else through this technology. But I think it's a matter of just time and seeing how things go. They've done some really cool stuff with so people who wear glasses. So if you have different things, a lot of these headsets have now, the Go, for example, have developed that you can wear glasses in VR, which was a struggle for a while because it was more the headsets were uncomfortable if you wore glasses, whereas now they've conquered that. So it's just they're growing and trying to solve these issues. I suppose the most common thing I hear is it made me a bit nauseous, and so it just depends if you're a person who is susceptible to say motion sickness or something like that. But again, that comes down to, say, me as a filmmaker or somebody else as a designer, on how you can make that experience not nauseating, top goal. So not moving the camera. And when I create films, the whole time you're thinking, the camera is a person, and so you have to be thinking, is that comfortable for me? Is that comfortable perspective? What height are they at? Is that they'll feel juvenile, or they'll feel younger if they're at that height, or if we put them higher, if we put them in the middle of the room versus in the corner of a room. And so you, as a creator, decide how somebody how somebody feels and experiences that, immersion. So it's growing space, but it's pretty exciting, and I would just say maybe just keep it to 20 minutes in the game or 20 minutes in a headset at a time, just to see how you go. My partner doesn't take that advice though, so good luck. So if kids are really getting into it, I don't think there isn't there isn't data saying it's bad, but there isn't data saying that it's good. And so that's why, just because these giant tech companies don't want to get in strife, so they just have to give warnings.
Yeah, so it's a matter of just being aware of the potential risks and being able to not going 200% and kind of moderating it a little bit. Are there any rules of thumbs on the age, like a recommended age limit or anything like that? Because I've seen that below 13 people shouldn't use it, and over 65 you should be aware of. That's just what I've heard.
It depends. Like I've read a lot of different ages. Maybe as a rule of thumb, maybe 13, maybe 10. I think again it just comes back to as well like content. Like if you're going to put a kid it's say a refugee camp to understand what it's like emotionally, like that's a lot to take on. Like it's also considering content. It's considering there has been a little bit of study. I don't know it extensively enough, but regarding when you have a VR experience, so when you put on a headset and you say watch a 360 film where you're in a refugee camp, for example, your brain isn't sure if you experienced it or if you saw it. And so there's a thing with your memory of where it sits in your memory. So because they are such impactful experiences, then your brain is tossing up between, okay, it was something I watched or it was something that I did. And that was where they were studying, because there was a bit of a blur between the brain wasn't sure where to put that. And I mean, for me as a creative, I think that's incredible. I'm like, wow, look what we can do. We can really create these experiences that have the ability to change somebody's empathetic reaction to something because they've experienced it. But then on the other side, it is like, okay, well, if something is, tricking your mind, we got to be careful with that and you have to know where to put it. But a lot of these studies were like proprietary. I'm talking about 2016 was when I was kind of heavy into it. And so, I think since then there's been much more investigation, and just a matter of, exploring that and seeing what works. Yeah,
and I think it also comes down to individual health conditions and things like that. So obviously if you have a history of motion sickness or car sickness that second you get on a boat you need to throw up, maybe be aware of those things and work with someone, and I think it's a matter of being mindful of those things. But that's incredible. So what about how you see VR and all these new technologies changing education in the future? So I recently watched Ready Player One, and I feel like all teachers should watch that movie to understand where things could potentially head. Because I have a feeling that movie is actually very much aligned with where the world can potentially head in a very realistic way. Have you seen that movie as well?
I haven't seen it. I've seen a lot of trailers and snippets of it, but I agree in the sense that, like, genuinely the possibilities are endless when it comes to tech. Like, things that we laughed about, holograms and whatever else, they're here. Like, they are here, actively being, spread out. It's just about, like, say maybe to the general public, they can't see them yet, but if you're in the design industry or if you're in tech, like, they're here. And so, I would just say, like, the possibilities really are endless, and we've got so much experimentation going on at the moment, and experimentation is my favorite thing because you get happy accidents, you find out what these technologies that weren't meant to do that, and they're now doing this and they can do that, and how they're all talking together. I think there's been really nice steps towards integrating extended realities in so many different ways, and I think it's just only going to continue forward. And once we start pushing those barriers and those limits, like, well, let's keep pushing and go further with that. So I think again, as I was saying, like, in design and tech, like, we see it right now, but I think you're going to really get into public spaces and public design, and AR is already starting to be in the public domain in terms of wayfinding and landmarks and interacting with physical spaces, physical environments, and so just where that line is going to be between the physical world, the virtual world, how we cross them all, and Yeah, we will see.
Definitely exciting times. I think there's that the Google Glasses is also another level of augmented reality, and obviously Pokemon Go.
Yeah,
I think the biggest grossing downloads in the history of the apps, and all 100% based on AR. And it's crazy. In Ready Player One, all these slums, people living in poverty, but they all had a VR headset, and they actually don't live in the real world as much, other than obviously to go eat or go to the bathroom or something like that. But they've got this avatar that they've created, and they're living in the virtual reality world more or less 80-90% of the time, and how they interact, simply because you can do whatever the heck you want.
Well, that's it. Like we just mentioned, I think it's funny is every single person in this world has a mobile device. I was doing some design innovation work with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals Innovation Lab, and we were looking at how we could solve these global issues, these pressing issues. And the thing was, all these solutions, people have phones. And that's amazing. Like we are always having a phone on us, no matter who you are, no matter where you are. And so we are kind of living in that world of connected, digital, physical, real, artificial, like it's all so blended, and I think you can't avoid it. It's unavoidable now. Yeah. You're at a point where you can't just be like, I don't want to get involved. Yeah. And for so long, I remember when I was in high school myself, and these interactive whiteboards came out, and I love my teachers, but none of my teachers knew how to use their whiteboard. And they just wrote on it with a pen. But I think we're nearing the stage where you're gonna have to get involved. Like technology is one of those things that it's running. It's gonna keep running. It's gonna go faster and faster. And if you can't keep up, you're gonna get left behind. And it's a horrible thing to say, but it is so true. And it's really changed the way that people who don't have any technology grounding really struggle. I've got family members who they had to buy a laptop. They didn't want one. They didn't want to be part of it, didn't want the internet, and we went and had to set it up because you can't function in our society anymore without a computer. That's just the way that everything's been designed, because ease of use and large scale, and there's obviously so many pros, but I just think with technology it's better to keep up with it, try and hang on. We're all just trying to hang on and see where this goes, because trying to catch up late is hard. And so by being able to prepare our students now while the technology is here, it gives them a chance to be able to compete in the world that is going to happen, whether you want it to or not. It's just going to progress, and being able to equip students with basic understanding, just access. Like a lot of these kids might have never done a VR experience before, and therefore they don't have that access. Being able to bring a $300 headset into a classroom, everybody in the classroom tries it out. At least they know what is going on now, and they can decide whether it's something they want to pursue further and take into their careers. And the cool thing about tech is that it applies to every industry. So it doesn't matter if you've got a student who's super interested in farming or art or music or whatever it is, but you apply technology to every single one of those industries. And so being able to give them a technological grounding and just a basic understanding, it really in this ever evolving world, it does let them at least be able to keep up and be the creators of the next wave of tech that's going to be coming when they finish.
Definitely. That's I noticed throughout the conversation we mentioned the words experimentation quite a bit. We talked about collaboration quite a bit, and how VR is a cornerstone when it comes to empathizing with an end user or someone else on the other side of the world. And those are the three cornerstone values of design thinking. And this is something we spoke about in the previous episode with Natalie, and how this, again, design thinking aligned with this technology and this VR is actually going into every field, and it's not just for design anymore, it's for every single person and any person really. So it's quite impactful, and at the same time they're all aligning with 21st century learning skills, because that's why I think it's important for students to be able to, like you said, just get that exposure so they can play with it, just understand what it's about, and they can run away with it. And I know it's a bit daunting for teachers who are, let's say, above 40, maybe even above 30, some of them. And but I've seen pockets of teachers where, even though they're a couple of years from retirement, they've just gone full ahead and embraced this technology, and they really want to learn, and they actually have fun doing it, because their work is not about then designing a lesson plan, even though they're doing that. It's more playing with these new toys and technology, and their jobs actually become more fun simply because of that mindset shift, rather than thinking, oh, this is just another thing I have to learn and it's too much. They've embraced it and they're having fun with it. So I think that's very important. Just being aware of time, do you have any last advice for our listeners? Somewhere they could, if they want to learn more about VR, AR and things like that, a starting point that they can take right after listening to this?
Yeah, for sure. So the cheapest, absolute easiest thing that you can do, it's called like a Google Cardboard. You can Google right now, be like, I want to print off a VR headset.
I think it's $60 or something.
Well, you can get it for like $5. Like, I'm talking about like literally a piece of paper that you fold around your phone so you block out the light, and you can go to YouTube, and if there's, just Google YouTube 360 content, and you'll be able to play it and move your camera around, interact with that space, and just get an understanding of what it opens up. I mean, you can go down to your local shopping center. I'm sure there'll be somebody there with a headset trying to sell you one. So, go and check out the Samsung booth or something like that. It's a really great way to just try out content, and just explore. I think play would be my biggest advice with technology and pretty much everything. Like, you want to have fun, and your students want to have fun, and when a student is engaged and they're enjoying their experience, that is when real learning happens. That is when true life-changing learning happens. And so that's kind of what I try to embrace, and we are really pushing for having these fun experiences that are changing people's minds and changing the way that they see possibilities, and just expanding what is possible, because right now, pretty much anything's possible, which is awesome, and it's only going to grow.
Wise words, Jessie. I think that's what we have time for today. Seriously, thank you so much for coming today and chatting with me. I honestly learned a lot. It clarified a lot of things for me, and I think the listeners will get a lot out of it as well. So thank you so much.
Oh, brilliant. Of course. It was lovely speaking with you, Rashaan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.